The year is 1964. The place, the Gobi Desert in Mongolia. The discovery, a clutch of dinosaur eggs. It's an exciting find, but nothing out of the ordinary. That is until paleontologists hatch one of those eggs, and out pops a baby dinosaur covered in feathers. Well, not really. Despite what you see here, that dino was most likely not the first feathered dinosaur ever found. But when this specimen was unearthed, it did something no other discovery had done before. It shattered the conventional wisdom about dinosaurs once and for all. Hi, it's me and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about that very special dinosaur, how its discovery changed our understanding of these prehistoric beasts. Stick around to the end because we have some great merch to show you that celebrates some of our favorite feathered friends. A world of scales. Dinosaurs were the dominant land vertebrates for over 165 million years during the Mesozoic era. Their fossils can be found all over the world, and they come in a dizzying array of shapes and sizes. But despite their diversity, for a long time they were thought to share certain characteristics. They were cold-blooded scaly reptiles that were more at home in a desert than in a rainforest. After all, that's what early fossil finds suggested. In 1824, the first dinosaur ever discovered, Megalosaurus, was unearthed in England. The fossil consisted of just a few bone fragments, but it was enough to convince scientists of a new kind of extinct animal. By the late 19th century, many more specimens had been found, and the general consensus was that dinosaurs were large, clumsy and scaly, much like modern lizards or snakes. Iconic species such as Tyrannosaurus rex and Triceratops confirmed this view. They were large carnivores and herbivores, respectively, with bodies that seemed perfectly adapted for life in dry, arid climates. Then came the discovery that turned everything upside down. In 1964, paleontologists working in the Gobi Desert uncovered a trove of dinosaur fossils. Among them were a pair of adult individuals and a clutch of eggs. The adults were unlike any dinosaurs seen before. Not only were they small, standing just under 3 feet tall, but they were also covered in feathers. That may not sound particularly strange today, but keep in mind that up until that point, every dinosaur fossil ever discovered was completely devoid of feathers. And this wasn't just a one-off fluke. A later study revealed that many of the young specimens unearthed from the same site were also feathered. This indicated that these particular dinosaurs didn't sprout feathers as adults. Instead, they probably looked like fluffy balls of yarn from the moment they hatched. More feathered friends. Scientists named the feathery dinos Archaeopteryx, which translates to ancient wing. At first, many dismissed the find as a freak occurrence. After all, a group of scaly dinosaurs suddenly sprouting feathers made about as much sense as a porcupine growing wings. However, additional fossil finds quickly proved that Archaeopteryx was anything but an outlier. In the years following the discovery of the first Archaeopteryx, many more specimens were found, all of which showed evidence of feathers. The finds included Dinosaur, a relative of Ankylosaurus that sported quills instead of deadly spikes, and Velociraptor, a notorious predator made famous by the Jurassic Park franchise and its feathers. Actually, if you want to get technical, the original Velociraptor was actually about the size of a turkey. But hey, who's counting? As more and more feathered dinosaurs were identified, scientists were forced to reconsider the entire concept of dinosaurs. Clearly, if some species were covered in feathers, then others were too. But if they were all feathered, why did so many fossils appear scaly? The answer, it turns out, lies in the nature of fossilization itself. Feathers are largely made of keratin, the same substance that makes up our fingernails and hair. Unfortunately, keratin doesn't preserve well in the fossil record. Over time, it decays, leaving behind only scales and bony armor. So while modern birds have feathers, their fossilized ancestors do not. What we see as scaly skin is often the remnants of feathers that were lost to time. This explains why so many dinosaurs look scaly, but it does little to explain why some of them, like Archaeopteryx, retain their feathers. The answer, it turns out, lies in the environment in which they lived. A foul discovery: feathered dinosaurs have a patchy distribution across the globe, meaning that they've only been found in certain places. For example, the famous feathered dinosaurs of the genus Ankylosaurus have only been discovered in China and North America. And the famous feathered dinosaurs of the genus Microraptor have only been discovered in China. At first, this distribution seemed random. But over time, scientists noticed a pattern. Many of the best-known feathered dinosaurs were found in what was once a tropical environment. This included Archaeopteryx, which lived in what is now Germany, and Dinosaurs, which lived in what is now China. It started to dawn on researchers that feathered dinosaurs weren't preserved everywhere because they didn't live everywhere. Rather, they lived primarily in warm, humid climates similar to today's rainforests. Suddenly, it all made sense. Dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus rex and Triceratops lived in deserts because they were reptiles that needed to stay far away from water to survive. But the ancestors of birds weren't reptiles. They were protobirds that preferred the trees and the undergrowth of warm, leafy jungles. Birds still have many reptilian traits, such as being cold-blooded and laying eggs. But they're not technically reptiles because they lack key reptilian features. For example, they don't have scales or bony armor. They have feathers. Birds are the only living relatives of dinosaurs, which means that dinosaurs didn't turn into birds. Rather, birds evolved from dinosaurs. Unfortunately, the discovery of feathered dinosaurs caused a rift between paleontologists. Some refused to accept that dinosaurs could have feathers, let alone be related to birds. They pointed to the fact that most dinosaurs were large, scaly reptiles. The ones that had feathers were clearly the exception, not the rule, or so they thought. More recently, advances in technology have allowed scientists to study dinosaur fossils in greater detail than ever before. And what they've found is nothing short of astounding. Almost every dinosaur species that's been examined has shown evidence of feathers. Even the infamous T-Rex, the king of the dinosaurs, had feathers. Now, these feathers wouldn't have been large or showy like those of a peacock. Rather, they would have been small and downy, providing the dino with a layer of insulation to keep it warm. In other words, dinosaurs weren't scaly reptiles. They were scaly birds. This realization has revolutionized our understanding of dinosaurs and led to a surge in new discoveries. In recent years, paleontologists have found dozens of new species of feathered dinosaurs, many of which were small, pigeon-sized creatures that lived in flocks like modern birds. They've also found evidence that dinosaurs used feathers for display, communication, and attracting mates, just like birds do today. The discovery of feathered dinosaurs has also led to a reevaluation of how we classify these ancient beasts. Many paleontologists now argue that the term dinosaur should be restricted to the ancestors of birds. Others, however, argue that this would redefine the entire concept of dinosaurs, which would make famous species like Stegosaurus and Ankylosaurus no longer dinosaurs. But one thing is for sure. The discovery of feathered dinosaurs forever changed our understanding of these magnificent creatures. Once thought to be scaly reptiles, we now know that almost all dinosaurs sported feathers of some kind. And it's thanks to that realization that we can marvel at the beauty and diversity of dinosaurs like never before. What do you think? You prefer the scaly or the feathery take on dinosaurs? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an upload. And now it's time for a Feathen Name That Tune. Ooh, it's cold in here. Hey buddy, want to go check out the new exhibit at the American Museum of Natural History? They got a bunch of fossils of this weird, flightless bird from the genus named after a particular scientist. You know the guy who shot Lincoln's assassin, John Wilkes Booth? Oh yeah? Yeah, he's the one who shot Lincoln's assassin. But what's that got to do with this bird? Nothing really. It's just that the guy who shot Lincoln's assassin was a paleontologist. He collected fossils on his expeditions and sent them off to be identified. What? Turns out he was the first person to discover a fossil of this strange flightless bird. They called it a dromaeus. Why? Because it looked like an ostrich. Oh, you don't know what an ostrich is? It's a large flightless bird native to Africa. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it's pretty hard to tell ostriches apart, especially if they're fossils. So why not call this new flightless bird after the largest flightless bird in the world? Easy, because there already was a fossil of that bird, and it was called Paleus. Turns out that name was already taken, so paleontologists had to get creative. They needed a name that was easy to pronounce and remembered, but also unique enough to distinguish it from the other flightless bird it was named after. So they settled on a compromise, dromaeus. It was different enough to set it apart from the other bird, but still easy to remember. Now, this isn't the only case of duplicate fossils. There are other examples of paleontologists naming a fossil after someone famous, only to find another fossil of the same species and have to rename it. It's not ideal, but it is part of the process. After all, the science of naming fossils is a bit like playing a game of telephone. When a new species is discovered, it's given a name based on its appearance, behavior, or the person who discovered it. And over time, those names get passed down and sometimes misinterpreted. For example, the famous Archaeopteryx was originally named by two different people, both of whom thought they had discovered a new species. But as more specimens were found, it became clear that they were all the same. So the two names were combined to form the one we use today. And that's not the only time that's happened. The famous Ankylosaurus was originally named by two different people, both of whom thought they had discovered a new species. But as more specimens were found, it became clear that they were all the same. So the two names were combined to form the one we use today. It's not always easy to keep track of which names are valid and which aren't, but that's all part of the fun of naming fossils. You never quite know what you're going to find. Thanks for watching.